Hey there, it's Robin with LeBon V Farm. Kind of got started on this without y'all. This is the worm bin that we started 3 months ago. Our bottom layer was primarily donkey manure as well as some goat manure. What is that?
I don't know. Let me go.
It's a quail.
Okay.
I saw her kind of chasing it. So I'm been meaning to build a couple of compost screens, but this rabbit cage works pretty good, so I'm still using it. Basically put everything on this top layer, got this bigger wire up top, and then the cage floor is a smaller wire, so I'll be able to sort through this bigger stuff, and I'm grabbing things that are uncomposted, setting it aside to go into the next worm bin so I can finish composting. I'm also grabbing any worms that I come across because they'll be going to the new bin as well. Really have more of a lack of feed problem because our waste products, our kitchen waste, scraps, we have so many outlets here on the farm for them between the chickens and the other poultry as well as the pigs. So really it's a matter of who gets what. We have multiple compost piles, so things that can't go to any of them and aren't appropriate to go to the worms end up in the compost pile. So this isn't our only source of compost. We have 2 different compost piles, as well as the compost we generate from the racking. So I'm going to keep working on this. Once it's all done, I'll show you what we ended up with. We'll turn this into a wheelbarrow of finished compost, a bucket of unready compost, as well as worms, and then I'll show you what we ended up with and show you the new bin that we're going to be putting it into, that I've already put some sheep bedding with sheep manure, spoiled bedding, and some other vegetable scraps in it. Since we let that age before putting these compost worms into it, because otherwise the heat, the nitrogen, everything that would happen with putting that fresh bedding in there would end up killing the worms. Be a very unhospitable environment for them. So we let that age and compost down a little bit beforehand so that we don't lose all our worms. Okay, so this is going to be a little hard to see, but I don't want to wait till the morning to do this. So I'm going to do the best I can with what I got here. This is our hungry bin, worm bin. And what I've got in here is hay, just soiled bedding with sheep manure and urine, of course. And what I have here is uncomposted stuff from our worm bin, as well as some worms. So I'll put all that in here. It's a pretty good bit, as you can see. I mean, 5-gallon bucket, I've got an entire wheelbarrow of compost that I have left to do a final sift through and pick through any worms that are left in it, and I'll do that tomorrow. Good morning. Resuming footage from last night. Here's a hungry bin. No, the lighting was horrible last night. So here's what we've got in here. Our uncomposted material from the other worm bin. Obviously we got our worms in here. You can see a little bit of the produce scraps that we've got. There's some worms here and there that are at the top, attached to this burlap. They're kind of all intermingled through it. There's some right there. Anyway, so I'm gonna go finish up the final screening of the other worm bin, and then I'll bring whatever I screen out that's not ready. I'll bring it over here, add it to this worm bin, and then the rest of it will be ready to go in the gardens. It's not a litter box, don't even think about it.
Trying to thin it out, and that way I can kind of see if there's any movement. And any that I miss just from doing it that way is going to be fine. It's like a little bitty one right there. Super little. The end of it right there. There's big chunks out of here. Not a lot. I mean, it's very, very little. Some extra work to get just a handful more worms, but So this is all we got to show for it. That little bit of uncomposted stuff, and there's a handful of worms in there. So that, along with our not quite full barrel of compost. I'm gonna put this in the worm bin real quick. Add it to it. And then run the barrel over to the garden bed where it's gonna go. I'll go ahead and dump them straight where the food is. And normally I would go ahead and moisten that down, but with all the rain that we got, that burlap is still wet enough. I don't need to add any more moisture to that bin. There's plenty of moisture in there for just that tiny amount. Now if I had a half a bucket that I was adding, or certainly a full bucket, different story, I would go ahead and wet it down. But not the case, so just a handful, a little more than a handful. There's no sense in adding any more water to it. Don't do it, golly. Don't do it. No, 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 no. Of course. There you go. So that concludes the follow-up to our 3-month big worm bin. That was our first run on it. Worked really well. This one here, the little small hungry bin, we've used it I guess a couple of years now that we've had it. So we really like it, but it's small. It doesn't produce near as much compost as we got. I mean, we got almost a whole wheelbarrow, about 2/3 I guess, off of that 1 3-month run. The hungry bin, what's good about it is it does produce a small amount, but it produces it on a easy to harvest basis. It comes out of that bottom section down there, so you get small amounts ready week by week. When I say week by week, it may be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but you can get a little bit at a time, which is good for coming in and topping off some of these green stalks. And when we have some starts or some potting transfers to do, it's great for that. But for doing something with a big bed, topping off or one of the raised beds, being able to break out a wheelbarrow load is going to be a whole lot more handy. The idea is really going to be to run this one, the hungry bin, and the big bin, and potentially even some more bins. I do need to build up the worm population first in order to do that, plus be able to keep up with enough composting material, like I mentioned yesterday, to keep the worms fed. So we got to get that worked out first. Did post a video initially, now I'm thinking back on it. When I did the video, I actually did show harvesting that compost as well as the worms from there and putting it in the new worm bin. So if you go back to that video, it's our vermicomposting video. That will show the use of that hungry bin when we drop the bottom
and harvest the compost from it, and you can see exactly how it works. So I will I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Sure would appreciate it.